or just flying, period. It is now mandatory, it is the law. Real ID is now required for air travel in America. Here's what to expect at airports across the U.S. Tyrone Bowman live. Let's get the conversation started. According to CNN, the time has come. Travelers flying with the U.S. starting Wednesday must use a state-issued ID that reads, quote, real ID compliant, end quote, or be subject to further screening. Things seem to be operating relatively smoothly at a sampling of U.S. airports. Wednesday morning, signs about the real ID requirements are posted, and TSA representatives at some airports are ushering people without real IDs to separate lines for enhanced screening. Lines outside some states' departments of motor vehicles may be a different story, however, as people who haven't received a compliant ID try to catch up. In downtown Chicago, a line Wednesday morning to get into a walk-in supercenter dedicated to using real IDs wrapped around a city block, though it had shortened significantly by the afternoon. Real IDs, aside from being used to board domestic flights, also will be required to enter secure federal facilities. Real IDs are marked with a star in the upper right-hand corner, no matter what state you live in. The 9/11 Commission recommended the new standard for enhanced security. Quote, state-issued driver licenses and IDs that are not real ID compliant are no longer accepted as valid forms of identification at airports. The Transportation Security Administration explained, however, if passengers show up Wednesday without real ID, they will still be able to fly, but may face additional screening, officials said this week, and air travelers can show alternative forms of ID, including a passport, a veteran health identification card, and other items. At Philadelphia International Airport Wednesday morning, the Real ID implementation went smoother than even some federal officials were expecting. The traveling public was great. They responded. They were prepared. Everything went as well as it could be expected, said Gerardo Shapiro, TSA Federal Security Director for Pennsylvania and Delaware. Security lines at the airport moved quickly with relatively few passengers diverted for additional screening because they did not have a real ID. Many passengers opted to use their passports, an acceptable alternative for flights as their ID. Quote, I don't think we've ever seen quite as many passports, certainly not for domestic flights, Superior said. A passenger in Philadelphia, Michelle Razinski, said she made sure to get her real ID a few years ago because she travels frequently to work, but she said she wasn't surprised others were left scrambling. It has not been well broadcast. It has not really been publicized. They could have done a better job at that, said Razinski, before passing through security without problem. Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, the world's busiest airport, officials initially had a separate security line Wednesday morning for those without a real ID. But that extra line was eliminated mid-morning because so few travelers were without one, and TSA officers will now do additional screenings as needed after passengers arrive at regular document checkpoints. Airport Lead Transportation Security Officer Alexis Pickerell said. And at North Carolina's Charlotte Douglas International Airport, staff were prepped with more security lines than usual and additional staff to help travelers at the real ID deadline. But for the most part, travelers had the identification they needed and moved smoothly through security, a CNN crew saw. So do like I'm going to do. Get yourself a real ID, get yourself your passport rather, and get yourself your identification card. I'm going to get all that stuff done ASAP because I've just been busy with law. I'm a law student, so you can imagine how busy I am. But I got to get that done as well. But I will take the time, hopefully, real soon to get all this stuff done so I can move, weave and bob, ebb and flow without interruption. Thank you all for watching Tyrone Bowman Live. If you like the if you like the content, please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get 2,000 subscribers. Can you help me? Thank you very much. Now let's get back to this article. The relative order at airports may depend on the state and how many residents obtain real IDs ahead of Wednesday's deadline. Georgia and Florida, for example, say more than 99% of the residents' driver's licenses or ID cards are real ID compliant. Alabama, however, had only 33% real ID compliance. Alabama law enforcement agency Captain Jeremy Burkett said North Carolina's real ID compliance, meanwhile, was at 52%, State Transportation Department spokesperson John Brockwell said. Illinois' real ID compliance rate is below the 50%. Max Walski, spokesperson for Secretary of State Alexa Janolius, told CNN Illinois was late in offering real IDs in 2019 compared to states like Indiana, which began in 2020, and Iowa, which began in 2013, he said. And at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport, traveler Jonathan Wiskovic did not have a real ID but arrived 2.5 hours before his flight to Tampa on Wednesday with other documents, hoping they would ease his passage through the amplified screening he knew was coming, he told CNN affiliate WLS. Hopefully, I got through the enhanced security pretty quickly, he said. I have my driver's license that has a hole in it. I have my temporary ID. They just issued me because my real ID is in the mail. Hopefully, I also have my social security card, a birth certificate, mail, and also a paycheck. So this article goes on and on and on. So to make a long story short, the enforcement is now happening amid flight delays and cancellations at Newark Airport, a key hub in New Jersey that serves the busy New York area. So let's get it done, people. Thank you for watching. Never surrender, never quit.